Shalom, shalom. Giving honor and praise to the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This is a presentation being brought to you from Shema Yisrael, a Hebrew Israelite congregation based out of Brooklyn, New York. Giving due respect on the human level to Nasi Zippor, Nasi Nathanael, and Chief Nathanael, as well as my beloved Hebrew teacher, Kohen Mikael, out of Hashaba, Yisrael, who taught me Hebrew as a little boy, being at that time the age of 13, 14 years old. Now, blessed be the Most High inside the congregation, Shema Yisrael, at the age of 37, going over Hebrew in this particular regard. Brothers and sisters, we're going to call upon and say a prayer to Yah, creator and maker of heaven and earth, and then go over the translation of it. It is found, brothers and sisters, in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 8. And we're going to start in verse 46. 1 Kings, chapter 8, verse 46. And it reads on this wise so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. When they sin against you, for there is no man who never sins, and you become angry with them, and you deliver them to an enemy, and their captors take them captive to the enemy's land, far away or nearby, and they take it to heart in the land where they were taken captive, and they repent and supplicate to you in the land of their captors, saying, we have sinned, we have been iniquitous, we have been wicked. And they return to you with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies who had captured them, and pray to you by way of their land that you gave to their forefathers, and by the way of the city which you have chosen, and through the temple which I have built for your name. May you hear their prayer and their supplication from heaven, the foundation of your abode, and carry out their judgment, and forgive your people who have sinned against you, and all their transgressions that they have transgressed against you, and let them inspire mercy before their captors, so that they will treat them mercifully. For they are your people and your heritage, whom you have taken out of Egypt, out of the midst of the iron furnace. May your eyes thus be open to the supplication of your servant, and to the supplication of your people Israel, to listen to them whenever they call out to you. For you have separated them for yourself as a heritage from all the peoples of the earth, as you spoke through your servant Moses, when you took our forefathers out of Egypt, O Yah Elohim. Ki yaket u laka, ki ein adam, ashelo yaketa, wa anafta bam, tatam lefne oyeb, wa shabum shobehem el eret ha oyeb, rakokwa o kweroba, wa hishibu el ibam, eret asho nishbu sham, wa shabu, wa hit kanu eleka, ba eret shobehem, lemor katanu, Wahewinu, Rashanu, Washabu, Eleka, Bakola Babam, Okav now Sham, Ashel Oibehem, Ashel Shabu Otam, Wahit Palu, Eleka Derek Arazam, Ashel Natatala Abotam, Hair Ashel Bakorata, Wahabayit Ashel Baniti Lishmeaka, Washamata Hashamayi Mekon Shib Teka, Et Tefilatam, Wa Et Techinatam, wa asita mishpatam, wa salakta, la amka asher kat u laka, u ka pisha ehem asher pas u laka, un tatam la rakamim, lifnei shobehem, wa richamun, ki amka wanakalakahem, asher hoseta mimitzrayim metok kur habarzel, lihiyot enea ka petukot, el Tikinat, Abdaka, Wa'el Tikinat Amka Yisrael. Lishmoa. Alehem Bakol Quad Eleka. Ki Ata Hidab Tam. Laka. Lana Kala Mikol Ame Ha'aretz. Ka'ashil Dibarata Bayad Moshe. Abdika. Baho the Aka et Abotenu Memitzrayim. Adon Yehovah. Hallelujah. One of the things we want to point out, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes, is the point, brothers and sisters, in these kind of classes and presentations, is first off, to give honor to the creator and the maker of heaven and earth. In the book of Deuteronomy, brothers and sisters, we see it says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." All right? And one of the things to be noted for edification purposes, Israel, is this. In the book of Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 11, it says, "So that the heathen may know that there's one Savior in Israel." So when we call upon the Most High, there's no mistake upon which God we're speaking to and calling upon. So we want that to be noted for edification purposes. Okay? This particular teaching here is called Reading Hebrew for Mastery 3, the final. Now, when I say final, it means that there was a Reading Hebrew for Mastery 1, then Reading Hebrew for Mastery 2, and this is the third one or the final one concerning Reading Hebrew for Mastery. Not that this is the final of the classes. All right? So that should be noted for edification purposes. All right? So one of the things we want to get into is this. Shalom, giving honor and praise to the Most High. This presentation is given to you all from Shema Yisrael, a Hebrew Israelite congregation based in Brooklyn, New York. Please subscribe to the channel. After this presentation, the goal is for one to know how to read Hebrew. All right? Next slide, please. Thank you. Shalom, Hebrew class 11. Shalom, this is Hebrew class 11. This class is called Reading Hebrew for Mastery Part 3, the Tribes of Israel. After this video, it is important that one goes back and review the previous lessons on this channel from lesson 1 to lesson 10. All right, so this is for edification purposes. All right. After this presentation, one will be able to read the Hebrew from the Bible, Old Testament, by the ability of identifying the letters and vowels. This presentation is brought to you from Shema Yisrael, a Hebrew Israelite Old Testament-based camp/congregation located in New York. I can be contacted by email at kashubhut@gmail.com. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. Next slide, please. Exodus chapter 1, verse 1, color-coded and explained. It says, "Now these are the names of the sons of Israel who came into Egypt with Jacob. Every man came with his household." The Hebrew says, "We'ele shemot bnei Yisrael, habaim Mizraima, et Yaakov ish ubeito ba'u." Now color-coded, when you see now these in the red, in the Hebrew, it says Wa'ele. All the names. A-R-E is understood in Hebrew. All right. So that's something to be noted for edification purposes in regards to grammar. Okay. So there is no real set word for R or A-R-E in Hebrew. All right. The names of Shemot means names of. B'nai, sons of. Yisrael. Yisrael transliterated as Israel. Habaim, who come. This is the aspect of the hay that you see there in the blue on the second line, brothers and sisters. Let it be noted that it's speaking in regards to the present tense, who comes with or who came with. All right, means Araima. Now, when you look at the words there, it says Mizraima in the brown on the third line in the Hebrew, and the third line in the English says into Egypt. Now, Mizraim, we already explained, literally means double straights. Now, when you say Mizraima, that means to Egypt. All right. So that's something want to be noted for edification purposes. Generally, Mizraim is translated as the word Egypt. However, when you have the aspect of the suffix, when you do it with that, with any noun, it means to whatever. For instance, kanut means store, okay? But ka nuta means to the store, all right? Beit means house, but be'etah would mean to the house. So shemayim means heaven. So when you say shemayimah, that means to the heavens. All right. So when you say Mizraim in regards to Egypt, you're saying Mizraima means to Egypt. So this is something we want to point out in grammar once it comes down into Hebrew. Okay, et Yaakov. Now, when you read the aspect of et, that's used in Hebrew grammar, an aspect before a definite article, that is the whatever, or in front of a name of a person, or in front of many cases with a noun. All right, so this is something we want to be pointed out. All right, et Yaakov, meaning specifically that particular one being Yaakov or Jacob. All right, now grammatically or translated wise, Yaakov means he will follow. The Hebrew word akwab means to follow. All right, so this is what we want to go in that particular regard. Okay, so akwab in Hebrew, brothers and sisters, is the root of that. The word akwab does not mean deceive. The Hebrew word for deceive in Hebrew is kazab. All right, so this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. The word Yaakov means he will follow. All right, this is something we want to talk about in that particular regard. All right, ish ubeto ba'u. All right, so when it says ish meaning man or each man, ubeto, beit means house, beito means his house, ba'u means they came. All right, so each man came with his household. In the Hebrew, when you see the aspect in the last line on the Hebrew, it says the bait, the aleph, and the wow, ba'u. The root of that comes from ba, which means to come. All right, in Hebrew. So this is something we want to talk about for edification purposes in that particular regard. All right, so we're going to go on to the next slide. All right, Yisrael, the meaning. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, for thou hast striven with God and with man and have survived. All right. The Hebrew says this: Wayomer lo Yaakov, Ya'amir od Shimka, ki im Yisrael, ki sarita im Elohim wa im anashim watukal. So what are we dealing with in this particular regard is this. The English, when you look at that inside the bluest part or the light blue part, Israel, is the same thing color coded in the Hebrew in that particular regard. All right. And it says this Yisrael. So that way it can be noted for edification purposes. Now, the red part there in the Hebrew says Sarita. Sarita in Hebrew means you have striven, you have prevailed. All right. You have contended. That is the definition of that. It comes from its root, Sarah, which we're going to explain as the PowerPoints go on in this particular regard. All right. Im Elohim with Im Anashim. Im with God and with man. Watukal, and you are able, or you have the ability to. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yisrael, Israel. Let El contend. Yisrael. Now, as we explained before, inside of a teaching done on this channel called The Matter of the Edomites and the Matter of Ahiah, we explained earlier, brothers and sisters, that the definition of one's name and the reason why one has a name may be different. All right. So the translation and the reason is not always the same for a person having a particular name or for a place having a particular name. All right. So that way we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about in this particular regard. Okay. And it says this, Yisrael, from the word Sarah, a Lamed Hey verb meaning to contend. So when we say, brothers and sisters, a Lamed Hey verb is any verb that ends with the letter Hey. All right, not any word, but any verb that ends with a Hey is called and referred to as a Lamed Hey verb. Yisrael literally would then mean let El or God contend. The definition of the word El is translated as God, and it comes from its root word ayil in Hebrew, which means to be mighty. All right, also meaning one who has power. So that's something we want to point out for edification purposes. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 32, when it says there's no power in your hand, the Hebrew word that's used there is the word El. So El in Hebrew means power or might, and does translate it understood as meaning God. Okay, the book to the left explains that Yisrael is not from Isis, Ra, and El. That is one of the teachings that was being brought forth by Freemasons, such as Jordan Maxwell, saying that Israel comes from Isis, Ra, and El, and then it was copied by further teachers, if you want to call them that, such as the Nawabians with the Dr. York situation, saying that Israel comes from Isis, Ra, and El, which is accurately and linguistically incorrect. So these are things we just want to point out for edification purposes. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. By the way, that book is available on Amazon. Next slide. Thank you. Reuben, the firstborn son. All right. Reuben means behold the son, from the root word ra'ah, meaning to see, and the added word ben, meaning son or son of. All right. So now, color coded once more again, when you see re'u in the green, and then ben is son, as stated. The word re'u itself comes from the Hebrew root word ra'ah. All right. The word ra'ah means to see. Like the word sarah, the word ra'ah also is a lamed hey verb. Now, as stated, a lamed hey verb is any verb that ends with the letter hey. Okay, so this is something to be noted for edification purpose. Oh, the troll came back. Shalom, how you doing? All right, so we're going to get back into the subject matter of what we're talking about. There's no way that the Israelites is a slave religion because the slaves were not even allowed to read, whereas the children of Israel are encouraged to read. So we have our troll back inside of the room. Hopefully you learn something from this particular lesson, but we're going to go on in this particular regard. So in this case, we see here, obviously the person ain't got no life and has so much time on their hands. All right, because see, with the time I'm using while I'm not working, I'm off from work today, I'm putting the PowerPoint together and bringing forth a video in this particular regard. Whereas some people have too much time on their hands and just go from video to video, but then have no videos of their own made. Okay, we're going to continue moving on in the spirit of the Most High. It says this, Reuben, the firstborn son. Reuben, behold the son. From the root word ra'ah, meaning to see. And the added word ben means son. So when you say that, brothers and sisters, Re'u means behold. It's the command form in that particular regard. Just in many cases, you might hear in Shema where it's actually stated as shebu, which is basically saying sit. All right. Well, Re'u means behold. Re'u ben, behold a son. All right. That's what that means in that particular regard. Next slide. Thank you. Simeon, the second born son. Simeon from the root shama, meaning to hear or to understand. Now, when you're looking at it on the left, the right-hand side, it's also, as stated in other aspects, color-coded. So you see Shimon, all right? The sheen with the kerik makes the she sound. Now, the mem that you see there has a shawah, all right? So we want that to be noted for edification purposes. When you have the shawah as stated in lesson 6, as well as in lesson 7 on the same channel, all right, you join it with the sound beforehand, all right? So this is something we want to be noted for edification purposes, all right? Now, Shimon, color-coded. The O-H-N in the English type there in black is equivalent to the Hebrew, the ayin, the wow, and the noon. All right, so this is something we want to point out in that regard. The definition literally of Shimon means hearing, or in that particular regard. Okay, so we're going to get on into the next slide in this particular case. Okay, Levi, the third son born. Lewi, from the root word lawa, meaning to join. All right? Lewi means that which is joined or that which is attached. All right? So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Now, let this be noted for reasoning, brothers and sisters. Lewi, joined or attached, from the root word lawa, which means to join or to attach. You see that written in the book of Numbers chapter 18 when it says about the Levites being joined on to their brethren. Now, in the Hebrew. Now, another thing to point out in this particular regard is like Sarah, like Ra'a, the word lawa too is also a lamed verb. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about in that particular regard. Okay, we're going to go on, brothers and sisters, to the next slide. Judah, the fourth son born. Judah, meaning in Hebrew said as Yahuda, meaning Yah be praised. From the root word huda, a hufal verb stem, meaning to be praised. Okay, so when we sit there and look at this particular regard, we have Yahuda, Yahuda, which means Yah be praised. The huda part we want to emphasize on in this particular regard is because it is the hufal or the hufal stem. The hufal is the sixth stem of the 7 verb stems in Hebrew, and that, brothers and sisters, serves as the passive of the hifil stem. The hifil stem serves as the causative of the qual stem. All right, so that way we can gain some understanding in this particular regard. Okay, so it gets into this particular thing right here. From the root word huda, a hufal verb stem, meaning to be praised. Yahuda. So the point in this is like 2 birds with 1 stone, you might say. It's called what? Hebrew for mastery, Israel and the tribes. So you can begin to see more aspects of how Hebrew is read, and at the same token, get more vocabulary in this particular regard so we can gain understanding for edification purposes. All right? This is not for arrogant purposes. This is not for me to sit there and say, I'm your more purposes. This is for edification purposes. All right, so let that be noted for reasoning as such. Next slide, please. Dan, the 5th son born. It says Dan, meaning judge, from the root word din, an ayin yod verb, meaning to judge. All right, so an ayin yod verb, brothers and sisters, is any verb that has a yod as the second letter. All right, anytime you have a yod as the second root letter inside of a verb, it is referred to as an ayin yod verb. So din is the root of that initially, but when you conjugate it in the past tense, you get it as dan, which means he judged, or one that is a judge, or one that is judging. That's why context in Hebrew is important. The way to say she judged is the word dana. So yes, dana is an English terminology for a name, but in Hebrew, it means she judged. So there's nothing wrong if one wanted to be called that. Jacob's daughter named Dinah means in the same root word, but Dinah means judgment. So these are things we want to point out for edification purposes. All right. So going on to the next slide. Thank you. Naphtali, the 6th son born. All right. Naphtali means my contention, from the root word hipatel, which is a nifal verb stem, meaning to contend. Now, the nifal stem, all right, brothers and sisters, is the passive of the qual stem. It's the second stem of the 7 stems. All right, so in the next lessons to go on, we're going to sit there and explain how these stems work in Hebrew, PowerPoint style, so that way one can begin to see, and there'll be biblical verses from the Old Testament showing where this is at linguistically. Okay, so from the root word hipatel, meaning to contend. Naphtal means a contention. Naphtalo would mean his contention. Naphtalah would mean her contention. But Naphtali means my contention. So as stated in lesson number 7 and then lesson number 8, when you sit up there and dealing with the aspect of the suffix of the yod, it shows the aspect of possession and nouns for the first person. This is why we have to go through this meticulously. Now, looking at this in the Hebrew, you have the color-coded, yet once again, the noon with the quamats, pardon me, the patak, and then you got the pay or the fay, depends on how one may say it, with the shawah, naf, and then you stop there, and then you continue reading on. All right? Naf tali, the tau has the quamats, making the ah sound, naf ta. Then the lamed has the kirik with the yod as the suffix, yod being the suffix in that regard. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. Naphtali means my contention. All right, so we're going to go on to the next slide in that particular regard. Gad, the seventh son born, said in Hebrew as God. Okay, not to be confused with the English terminology God. Okay, Gad, meaning troop, from the root word gud, in Hebrew meaning to attack. All right, also from the word gud, meaning as stated to attack. God also from the word gadad, meaning to attack. It is an iron verb. So let me explain what this is talking about in this regard. The word Gad, said in Hebrew as God, means troop. Okay, one thing. Secondly, brothers and sisters, it said from the root word gud, which in that regard would then also be an iron wild verb, because in that regard is the second letter in that. So when you conjugate an iron wild verb in the past tense, the wild drops out. All right, so it's God T, not Gawad T. Okay, so this is something we want to emphasize in that regard. Okay, now, from the word gud, meaning to attack, God from gadad, meaning to attack, it is an iron verb. An iron verb, brothers and sisters, is any verb that has the second and the third root letter of the verb as the same letter. You see that in the word sabab, meaning to go around. That's a samek and a bet and a bet. You see that in the word zarar, which means to vex, with the zadeh, the resh, and the resh. So now when you see the gamel and the dalit, you have that said as gadad, which means in the iron verb formation also means to attack. You see that, brothers and sisters, in the scriptures in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 14, where it says, do not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead. Al tit godade. Do not attack between your eyes for the dead. So these are things we want to sit there and deal in that particular regard. Okay, so going on into the next slide. Thank you. Asher, the eighth son. All right. Asher means to be happy. Some saying Asher means to be blessed. Now, in many cases in the Bible, you see, blessed the man in the book of Psalms, chapter 1, but the word there is Asher, which if you are blessed, you are happy. So you can see that as being synonymous, okay? The root of Asher comes from Ashar now, meaning to go straight or to advance. All right. So the word Asher, which is translated meaning happy, comes from the actual root word Ashar, which means to go straight or to advance. So when you're going straight, that is a form of happiness. All right. So just want that to be noted for reason and purposes. All right. Okay. Also, as seen, color coded, the aleph with the quamats, the AH, they're both in the red. Sher, the sheen with the zere and then the resh. All right. So that way we can gain understanding purposes. Okay. We're going to go on to the next slide. Thank you. Issachar, the ninth son, meaning the ninth son born. All right. Issachar means there is a reward or one who is hired. Since we know that seen is a variant of the letter sheen, the word yesh means there is, and sakar means reward. The word sakar also means to rent or to hire. So it may be also that which is rented. Now, if you look at Issachar and how he was sired and conceived, Jacob was basically told that night, you will go into Leah's tent. Like, I've hired you for the night. So they named their children based upon things that was going on in their particular timing. They didn't name their children that had no meaning in their understanding. All right. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Brothers and sisters, not to stay on a bad note, but Daniel was given the name Belshazzar. Joseph was given the name Zaphnath-Paneah. And many of our people brought over here were given names, such as John, Vernon, Dwayne, Chris, James, and so forth. Slave masters named their names. What unfortunately happens with many of our people in the Western Hemisphere is that we continue and perpetrate these same slave names onto our children. Many of us have done it, and it's not to condemn anyone. I have a government name. You understand? My daughter has partly a government English name. So the things, just to be noted, not to sound haughty or anything of that sort, we want it to be known for edification purposes, brothers and sisters, that the names that we're dealing with in this particular regard, I have an uncle named Vernon. I just happen to pick that because I saw it. You understand? My middle name is Tayshawn. Sean is not, or Hebrew, modern even. You understand? So this is something to be noted for edification purposes. All right? My daughter's middle name is Harriet. Like, there is nothing ancient or Eastern about that. So I'm saying this just for reason and purposes and for edification matters. Now, when we deal with this particular aspect, brothers and sisters, it is incumbent and important for us to know and understand that when you name your child something that is not lineal, genetically connected to your ancestors, you are, even though in ignorance, perpetrating the same slave aspect. Myself included, by naming my daughter part of that to sit there and coincide with her mother not wanting to be upset. Long story. But the point, getting back to the subject matter of names in Hebrew and so forth and so on, is when Israelites were coming out of hospitals with Hebrew names, sometimes people were saying, why would you want to name your child that? My daughter's first name is Shalosha. All right. Shalosha is the Hebrew word, mind you, for three. All right. The idea was, though it didn't succeed, was for her mother, her and I to be three as a family. But getting back to the point is, her name is Shalosha, which means three. All right. I remember being asked, what kind of name is that? Oh, it's a cultural name. It's a Hebrew name. Hebrew? It's a Hebrew name? That's what the people in the hospital had sat there and said, it's Hebrew? Would you not sit there and care to know more about the health of the child and tell me what's going on and how is her mom and so forth, and was everything successful? Did you feel the heartbeat right? Did you sit there? Did she cry enough for her lungs to sit there and start working? That's what I'm expecting to hear when my daughter was born 11 years ago. But instead, when it was stated that my child named Shalosha as her first name, have it being a cultural and a Hebrew name, was like, huh, what? Why is that? See, because we were never expected to read. It was certainly not English and definitely not Hebrew. So these are things we just want to point out for edification purposes. All right. So getting back into the subject matter of this, it says, it's sakar, means there is a reward. If you understand that the seen letter, which is the green letter there with the S there in the English, can also can also linguistically be a sheen. So if we look at that, yesh sakar, there is a reward. There is that which is hired. So these are the definitions and the translations that can be gleaned by knowing the Hebrew in that particular regard. All right, let's go on to the next slide. Thank you. Zebulun, the 10th son. Zebulun means dwelling or habitation, coming from the Hebrew verb zebel, seen in 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 13, meaning to dwell. Another definition for Zebulun or Zebulun is one who is exalted. So let's go over this particular aspect, color-coded as seen. The Zion has a shawah. So you just say it in that particular regard. Then you got the Z there inside of the English with the apostrophe. Now, going along, looking at this being color coded. Remember, Hebrew is read from right to left. English is read from left to right. So you got the B-O-O, boo, okay, with the bet there, with the shuruk, pardon me, yes, the shuruk in that particular regard. All right, zebu, zebu. And then you continue reading on. The lamek has a quebutz, also making that particular u sound, the three dots slanted, which is not seen much in Hebrew. All right, but it does exist. Zebu loon, the noon, so feet making that sound in that particular regard. The meaning of it is dwelling or habitation, coming from the Hebrew verb zibel. The word zibel is a PL verb stem in Hebrew. The PL stem in Hebrew is the intensification of the qual stem. All right, whereas the Hefil stem is the causative of the qual stem. Okay, so now it says another definition for Zebulun is one who is exalted, also coming from that same particular root word. These are things we want to be known for edification purposes. Next slide, thank you. Joseph, the 11th son born. Joseph means adding or increasing. Yosef from the verb Yasaf means to add or to increase. In Psalms 81, Joseph is said in Hebrew as Yehoseph, meaning Yah will add. Okay, looking at the Hebrew on the right-hand side, you have the Yod, and then next to it, the Y with the Kolah making the O sound, Yo. Then you got Samek with the Zere making the Eh sound, Yosef, Yosef, all right? The last letter you see there in the Hebrew is the Fe So Feet, which is not a commonly used letter, but it does serve its purpose, all right? In Psalms 81, Joseph or Joseph is said in Hebrew as Yehoseph, all right? Because Hosif in Hebrew, all right? Hosif in Hebrew, inside of the Hefil stem, okay, also means to add or to increase. You see that sometimes, or hear that sometimes said in Israelite camps when their teacher is teaching, they say, Tosif, Tosif. What they're telling them is to continue or to add in that particular regard. So Hosif is the root of Tosif. We're going to explain that further as we go along in this particular regard. All right. So it's Hebrew for mastery, part 3, and the tribes, meaning reading mastery. I'm going to change the name when this is uploaded so we can gain some understanding in that particular regard. All right. Now, getting back into this here, it says that it is a pay-yod verb. All right. A pay-yod verb is any verb as the first letter of the verb. Yasaf starts with the letter yod, so by default, it is referred to as a pay-yod verb. All right, so this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. All right. Somebody asks, what is the meaning of the on and versus the on? That's a very good question. Okay, let's look back. Thank you for asking that, my brother or sister. Oh, Ben. Oh, I remember you, brother. How you doing? All right, so okay, let's look at this. Zebulun, meaning dwelling or habitation. All right, look at the word zebel. The word zebel means to dwell. All right, so now when you deal with this in this particular regard in Hebrew, all right, it says this. What is the difference between the on and the on? It's absolutely nothing in regards to translation and the meaning of the word. All right. So this is something we want to point out in that particular regard. Thank you for asking that. That means that this particular brother, this particular person, obviously either through me or through somebody else or by personal study, already remembers Shimon, Kebron, Elyon, Zikaron. When the on at the end, it strengthens the meaning of the word that's connected to. Shabbaton. Shabbat means rest. Shabbaton, complete rest. So there is no difference linguistically when somebody says Zebulun or if somebody were to just say Zebulon, except for the fact that it's not pronounced as such. The translation is still the same. Shabbaton, the on and the un as that particular suffix doesn't change the translation. Thank you for asking that question. All right. So this is something we want to point out for that regard. Next slide. We explain the matter of Joseph. Let's go on to the other slide. It says this, Benjamin, the 12th son. All right? Benjamin in Hebrew is Ben-Yamin. Ben-Yamin. The meaning of Ben-Yamin is son of a right side or son of a right hand. Now, the reason why I made sure in translating this that the word side or hand was there, because I didn't just want to say son of the right, because right, meaning righteous in Hebrew, is Zadok, Zidkwa, or Zedek. All right, that means righteous, meaning the opposite of wicked. But the word Yamin means right at the opposite of left. So this is why I just want that to be noted for edification purposes. Ben means son or son of. Yamin means right side or right hand. Okay, so view this lesson again, go over it for edification purposes, brothers and sisters. It's online. For those who have any questions, please feel free to comment inside the comment board. All right, or when this is uploaded for such. Okay, with that, giving honor and praise to Yah, creator and the maker of heaven and earth. Shalom, Lala Tob. Thus ends the classes for tonight. There will be more in the future. Shalom. Have a good night.